Hello, my name is Rhonda McFarland, and I am the Deputy Athletics Director and Chief Financial Officer for Intercollegiate Athletics on the Twin Cities campus. My task today is to walk through the basics of the Gopher Athletics budget, which is a portion of the overall university operating budget, at a high summary level. The athletics department on the Twin Cities campus is categorized as an auxiliary unit, a self-supporting entity that is required to operate at break-even to cover direct costs and a portion of the university overhead. Gopher Athletics is made up of 25 sport programs, 13 women's teams, and 12 men's teams, with approximately 650 student athletes. These programs are supported by 260 full-time employees. The information in this presentation will not reflect the impact of the global pandemic on the athletic department budget. I will focus on fiscal years during which our budget and actual expenses were more typical than what we are dealing with currently. This graphic is a representation of the budgeted sources and uses of funds for the 2020 fiscal year. This budget of $123 million included 6 basic sources of funds that are consistent across many university athletic departments. Revenue distributed by the Big Ten Conference represents the largest funding source. It is made up of our institution's share of the Big Ten's television contract revenue, revenue generated by the college football playoff system, and the funds that flow from the NCAA, the majority of which is generated by the men's basketball national championship each year. Ticket sales for home events for our Gopher sports teams represents the second largest source of funding for the department. Revenue identified as fundraising is made up of contributions from donors and fans for scholarship endowments, funds to support large capital projects, and scholarship seating donations, which are gifts required of season ticket holders that purchase seats in the more desirable locations of our athletic venues. As you can see, athletics also receives approximately $6.8 million from the university in the form of an O&M allocation. We will discuss this and the $3.7 million of additional university support in a future slide. Compensation expenses, including salary costs and fringe benefits, make up the largest expense category for the department. The combined budgets of the sports programs and the support units, like sports medicine, strength and conditioning, equipment, marketing, and information technology, make up the second largest expense category. The scholarships expense represents the tuition, fees, books, room and board, and cost of attendance for those student athletes receiving athletic scholarship dollars. This category has increased significantly in the past few years due to the double-digit increases in non-resident, non-reciprocity tuition rates. It is the goal of the athletic department to maximize the benefit to the student athletes of the revenue generated and provide the best possible experience while maintaining a balanced budget. The next slide describes some of the history of the current university support of Gopher Athletics. If we step back to 1979, in that year, the legislature allocated $1.2 million specifically for intercollegiate athletics. This chart shows the historic allocation over time and how it increased and changed in focus. During the 1997 legislative session, the athletics state special was folded into the university O&M appropriation. The final amount was approximately $3.1 million, which translates to approximately $4.9 million today. The next slide is a representation of the history of the athletics O&M allocation over the past 15 years. In fiscal year 2004, Gopher Athletics first became a separate resource responsibility center. At that time, the allocation was just over $7.6 million. As you can see, there have been a number of adjustments during this period, but it is important to understand that Gopher Athletics was treated much the same as other resource responsibility centers within the institution. The net change over this 15-year period is a reduction of about $863,000, but the loss in buying power is closer to $2.7 million. This graphic is a way to demonstrate the total support for Gopher Athletics from the university. We noted in an earlier slide that in addition to the $6.8 million in O&M allocation, there was approximately $3.7 million in other university support. The items listed here are what make up that $3.7 million amount. First, the University of Minnesota Foundation provides support for development officers, like they do for colleges across campus. The university provides $1 million in support to help offset the significant increases in non-resident, non-reciprocity tuition rates over the past few years. Support for the Lindahl Academic Center in the form of staff that provide academic services to the student athletes, costs to operate the Office of Athletic Compliance, which is supervised by the University Office of the General Counsel, and some debt service payments made for athletic facilities. In total, about $10.5 million in support to Gopher Athletics. Our final slide identifies expenses that athletics pays to the university. In fiscal year 2019, scholarship expenses were about $13.8 million. Cost pool charges, detailed on this slide, totaled about $5.7 million. The athletics department's portion of expenses related to the Lindahl Academic Center of about $1.1 million, support for the university information technology infrastructure, insurance premiums, and annual support for the marching band. In total, over $20 million is paid from athletics back to the institution. The athletics director and his team have worked hard to control costs while continuing to enhance the experience for student athletes academically, athletically, and socially. The support the department receives produces excellent results. We rank as one of the top public institutions in the country with respect to student-athlete academic success. Athletically, for the past 2 years, we have finished in the top 20 in the Director's Cup, which measures overall athletic achievement and puts us in the top 10% in the country. Unfortunately, the revenue generated and funds expended during the end of fiscal year 2020 and throughout fiscal year 2021 have and will continue to be impacted by the global pandemic. Restrictions and protocols necessary to maintain the health and safety of our students, staff, and our fans have created financial challenges that we will be dealing with for years to come. I thank you for your attention, and I appreciate this opportunity to share information about the funding model for Gopher Athletics. Thank you, and go Gophers.